everyone from wherever you are listening from. Welcome to the episode number 6 of Engineering Tales by ASEI. Today, our guest is Dr. Shreekant Agrawal, who is an aerospace expert, having been in the field for over 4 decades. He is the head of flight technology at the Urban Air Mobility Division of the Hyundai Motor Group. Prior to this, he was the technical fellow at Boeing, and he spent about 29 years in Boeing. And of course, he comes with a solid education in aeronautics and aerospace engineering with a degree from IIT Kharagpur, as well as a Ph.D. from Michigan. He is a real expert amongst us. His affiliation with ASEI has been long as well. He has been the president of the Southern California chapter, and he's been involved with ASEI National as well, having been the chair from 2010 to 2011. And of course, he's been a good friend and an advisory board member since then. He was recognized by the Chinese Institute of Engineers in 2004 as the Engineer of the Year. And he happens to have a number of papers in various conferences and a patent in supersonic aircraft design. So what kind of work he's done in the past and what kind of things he's thinking about the future of SpaceTech and aerospace engineering, especially in the wake of the flight of the billionaires in space in the last month. Let's go and meet Dr. Agrawal. Hello, Dr. Agrawal. Welcome to ASEI Engineering Talks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Piyush.
You've been involved with ASEI for quite some time. Tell me about your ASEI journey. And in fact, we are very curious about how did you get into US after your aerospace engineering at IIT Kharagpur and your career journey. So please start from there.
So do you want me to talk about the ASEI first or just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Then ASEI stands for American Institute of Engineers, for American Society of Engineers of Indian origin, since 2004. And I would say I was one of the first few from Southern California chapter where we got together at one place and we talked about starting this chapter pretty much from scratch, because we had nothing like that here. But some of the other visionaries out there, like Paul Srikant and other folks, they formally started the chapter. I got involved in that chapter myself as a board member. And it's been it's a great journey for me, I would say. In 2006, I led a convention. This is the national convention that we have, annual convention for ASEI. And we had a very beautiful topic called improving the quality of life through technology. We did that here in Cerritos, California. The convention was a great success. We had people from all over the country, from all over very different places like academia and industry and just private entrepreneurs come and talk about what technology does to you. And as we know, technology is one of the noble professions out there. And it was so good, eye-opener. We all know that without technology, we can't do anything these days. Technology is it. And I was watching the video recording for Dr. Sam Petroda, where he said, without technology, there's no future. And I was just reflecting upon that myself, and I said, absolutely so true. If there's no progress in technology today, what would life be like today? It'll be almost the whole life stops, not only for us, for the whole planet. So anyway, my involvement with ASEI really grew from that. I really liked getting more and more involved in ASEI. In 2008, we had another symposium on sanitation, improving the sanitation conditions in India. As you know, the sanitation conditions in India is not very good. So we had that kind of a 2-day long convention. So we call that symposium, again in Southern California. We had people from India come here. One of the pioneers in this area, Dr. Pathak, who is considered to be the top-notch, or the person who has started the Sulabh Shauchalaya. Might have heard about that. Anyway, he came, he brought his whole contingents, he brought his whole team with him. And that was so nice. We also had a whole bunch of NGOs come here from India. And that was really good. Just people got so fired up. People in the engineering, I guess, discipline, people from the membership, ASEI membership, they're so fired up that we need to do something about this. You know, here is somebody like Bindeshri Pathak doing this. Why can't we get involved? So we did, and we actually had some good movement along that line for a couple of years. And one of the life members from Southern California, Harish Bhutani, I believe he's still doing quite a bit of work in that area. So things like this. And then I became the chair for the Southern California chapter. I was there for 2 years. I became the national chair, kind of the role you are doing right now, 2011 to 13, something like that.
Yeah,
and since then, more or less, in an advisory role. I think it's been a great journey. I personally like ASEI. There are several different societies in engineering that I'm part of. And this is one that I would put almost at the top.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Dr. Agrawal, this has been great, and you can endorse the professional advantages of being in your own profession, at the same time interfacing with engineers of multidisciplinary nature that come to ASEI, and by virtue of that, you get an exposure to other disciplines like civil engineering, like nanotechnology, like information technology, and here with aeronautics and aerospace. So, I mean, I personally can say that I never knew as much about aerospace until I came into ASEI almost 10 years back myself. But I am now very, very curious to see and learn about your journey, how you came from India after IIT Kharagpur, your aeronautics engineering, and how did you end up doing your master's and PhD here, and then your career journey. Please show some light on that, please.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, thank you for asking. So after my high school in India, I came from a very small town in India, very small town. Anyway, I did high school, and then I was wondering what I should be doing after that. And my father was a lawyer, and so he wanted me to go towards law. Mm-hmm. I had two brothers, elder brothers, both engineers. One was a metallurgical engineer, the other one was an industrial engineer. They had a huge influence on me. And I was good at math and science, so they advised me to go to engineering. And then I looked at it. I had an opportunity to go to IIT Kharagpur, and I had an opportunity to decide which discipline I wanted to go in. So again, I asked my brother over the phone. I was in Kharagpur campus. I had to select. And I called up my brother, and he said, whatever is your passion, Srikant, do that. My passion was aeronautical engineering. I loved airplanes, because of such a small town I came from. Every time we saw some airplanes or helicopters come by, we would just rush towards that and try to get as much view as possible. Anyway, I ended up in aerospace, did bachelor's in aeronautical engineering from IIT Kharagpur. And then I came to this country, and I did master's from University of Maryland in College Park, also in aerospace engineering, because that was my fascination. I just wanted to learn more and more. And then I did Ph.D. from University of Michigan at Ann Arbor also in aerospace engineering. So overall, aerospace engineering, now within aerospace engineering, I specialized in something called fluid mechanics. Fluid mechanics, people talk about solid mechanics, right? People talk about gas dynamics. Here we talk about fluid mechanics, which really liquid and gas, as you all know, that's what fluid makes up. So that was, I have always found that very, very fascinating, very fascinating. Fluid mechanics is essentially learning the movement of fluid, right? That's basically what fluid mechanics is all about. So in terms of airplane, you can think about the various molecules, traveling with certain velocity as the airplane is flying and flying over different parts of the airplane. So we study the movement of essentially air or air molecules and then predict the airplane performance, predict the airplane lift and drag and moments, things like that. Typically, we study those things in school. We sometimes study that under statics, dynamics, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Very, very fascinating. It's the application of essentially what we learned at school and put those into practice. So I've enjoyed throughout, really, doing that. And after I completed Ph.D., my career started. And I can't believe it's been 40 years since since I completed Ph.D. It's been 40 years. And I was just thinking about the other day, and I said, I can't believe I've already been doing it. It seems like just yesterday. I have the vivid picture of my very first job, which I took after I graduated. I went to Wichita, Kansas, and I worked for a small company called B.Tech, which has traded hands several times. But Wichita is considered to be the aviation capital of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I worked there for some time, and then I moved to Binghamton, New York, working in something called Flight Simulation Division. And that's where I applied my skills to flight simulation, developing simulators, building simulators, things of that nature, math modeling, so that we can predict even before an airplane flies. After that, I went to join Boeing. I would say McDonnell Douglas, that was the Heritage McDonnell Douglas in Boeing, St. Louis. And I worked there for many years, primarily on the defense side, called McDonnell Aircraft Company. In short, people call it Mac Air. Mm-hmm. And I had an opportunity to work in F-15, advanced F-18, AV-8, T-45, you name it, so many different airplanes. Some of them were Air Force airplanes, some of them were Navy airplanes. Very, very great opportunity to work on those. And along with that, R&D as well. Then I moved to California, still within Boeing. And when I came here, I got to work on supersonic airplanes, high-speed, civil transport being one of them, and several other projects. A lot of them were classified. That's why I cannot talk about some of those things.
Totally understand.
But still, it's applying your knowledge to the design and development of airplanes, design and development of missiles, design and development of spacecraft, right? Design and development of expendable launch vehicles, reusable launch vehicles, things of that nature. And that's the kind of thing I did until 2014. And then I went to Northrop Grumman.
So about 29 years with Boeing, you were using math and physics on a daily basis, it seems like.
Absolutely on the daily basis. Of course, in the midst of all of that stuff, I also had the management, the leadership role. And you've probably seen that from my bio.
Yeah, you had a COO role with Tata Venture along with Boeing. So
it was such a fascinating assignment to me. I tell you, it was working with Tata, which is, I'm sure you know about that. Tata is just as big as Boeing.
Oh yeah. That was my first company out of college, and I have great regard for Tatas and Sir Ratan Tata as well.
Yeah. So in fact, Ratan Tata was the one who initiated this whole thing. Talked to Boeing and said we would like to get more involved, and let's talk about a joint venture. So I was the chief person from Boeing, representing Boeing in that capacity. The CEO came from Tata. I was the COO.
Mhm.
We were essentially working from a startup, call that a startup company, right?
Yeah.
So that I worked on that for about a year. I did not relocate to India, but I traveled to India many, many times. And during my time, that did not quite happen because, you heard about 11/26, just like we talk about 9/11 here in this country. The project was put on hold. I came back. In a way, I never went there, but in a way, I got a different assignment and I was working on other stuff. But that was a very fascinating experience working with people from India, looking at their capabilities, looking at their supply chain and everything. It is growing over there. It's growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And Boeing is such a big name out there. And Dr. Agrawal, let me tell you, in preparation for our meeting, this conversation, I ended up visiting the Museum of Aviation in Seattle last week.
oh, very good, very
I
good.
went
Yeah.
and saw the Boeing place, and I really wanted to take the entire tour, but I had only about 1.5 hours. So I did spend a good amount of time. So I'm a little bit educated about aircraft, but want to learn a little bit more.
Very good. It seems like you have a lot of interest in aerospace, and that's a good thing. I certainly want to promote aerospace as much as possible, but more so engineering in general. Aerospace is one of those. So anyway, I worked at Northrop Grumman for about 6.5 years, primarily on the defense side. A lot of them are just secret projects. But to talk about my job was primarily on the functional side, which is dealing with people, process, tools, technology, and making sure that people who were in my organization, they were supporting various programs and they were essentially successful. And so my job was to develop people, train them, and make them successful. I really enjoyed that role. Now I'm at Hyundai. Very different. All along I worked on fighters and bombers and tactical aircraft, space planes and launch vehicles, missiles, and some stint in the commercial side, large and fast, long distance. Yet I come to Hyundai, it's small and slow and short distance. Very, very, so can you think of this as a miniaturized airplane, right? That's basically what urban air mobility. Pretty soon you'll see in 8 to 10 years, something of that order, you'll see a whole bunch of these airplanes flying above our homes. It's going to be fascinating. So my journey has been very fascinating. I've enjoyed every bit of it. You asked me to talk a little bit about some failures.
Just
or
before you
setbacks.
go to the failures, I want to dig in a little bit about your Hyundai thing, if you are allowed to talk about it. I mean, are these like drones, or I mean, there's science fiction equivalent of anything that you can imagine in aerospace. I get my inspiration only from science fiction. And so, and you are researching and you are making things and you're saying things will come 10 years later. So give us an insight and satisfy my curiosity, please.
Oh, absolutely. So initially, they're not going to be drones. Initially, they're going to be piloted.
Okay.
But the idea is to go to drones later. So this is going to be such a huge business, and there's so many players out there all over the world. By the way, today, if you hear that there are something on the order of 250 companies around the world working on air taxis, urban air mobility, aircraft development. There's something of that order. Yeah. So this is going to be a huge deal. Huge deal. I mean, in about 10 to 15 years, the projection is something in the order of trillions of dollars. Literally, it's not even 1 or 2 trillion. It's the many trillions of dollars of business per year. So you can imagine how big this is going to be.
Yeah.
So yes, these are going to be small aircraft initially, and I think for some foreseeable future. They're going to fly something in the order of 5,000 to 10,000 feet above our homes. They're going to be urban. Some of them later on might become regional. And let me explain what that means. Urban meaning kind of in the congested area, in the cities. going from point A to point B, taking people from point A to point B. They could drive, but it will take a much longer time to get from point A to point B.
So something
This
like
one
a
is
cheaper version of helicopters, if you will.
it's not necessarily a cheaper version, but it's faster. People can get there faster from point A to point B, and hopefully with more innovation, and which is always going to happen, is going to get cheaper as well. So
are
that's
these fueled
basically
by,
what it is.
sorry,
Yes?
sorry to interject here. Are these fueled by aerospace airline fuel, or are these electric kind of devices?
So almost everybody is working toward electric.
Okay.
Yeah, just like you hear about electric vehicles for road transportation, right? Surface transportation. We're talking about electric aircraft. So these are going to be electric aircraft. Most of them are working on electric vertical takeoff and landing, so-called eVTOL. eVTOL is in short, as we call it. They're all electric, battery powered, but there is hydrogen fuel cell coming up as well. That technology isn't quite there for this operation, but in 10 years time, you'll see that happening as well.
This is very cool. I mean, I recall meeting somebody from Uber. He was giving a presentation 3-4 years back about an air taxi service using these kind of vehicles, which I was amazed how a car company like Uber is getting into urban air mobility, and I'm sure there have been developments happened and M&A as well as acquisitions as well as new companies have formed there. So are you in your capacity also looking at that ecosystem? Because Hyundai is primarily an automotive company, and getting into flights, there must be some synergies that your aviation background brings to this, that they were after you to hire an ex-technical fellow of Boeing into Hyundai. So throw some light there, please.
Yeah, definitely. So there is definitely a lot of synergy. So many other players are essentially leveraging their expertise, let's say in automotive, right? Many of them are involved. GM is involved, General Motors, Toyota is involved. They're working with Joby. So Uber used to be what Joby is today.
Okay.
And Toyota is working with them. There are a whole bunch of other companies. Almost all of them are getting into it in one form or the other. Either they are just investing money, or they're leveraging their expertise on manufacturing. And Hyundai is going to do the same thing, right? No question about that. Hyundai is a big corporation, sells a lot of cars, it's got manufacturing capability. So certainly they're going to leverage that part of it. There's no question about it.
Great. Now let's shift gears into the craze of what we saw in July. 2 billionaires going into space, and with Sir Richard Branson and his company making forays there. We always hear about Elon Musk. I live in his Elon Musk's background here in Fremont, so I keep hearing about SpaceX and what all he does. But Jeff Bezos going into space, as well as Sir Richard Branson, basically everybody's talking about space tourism and space tech. So I want your thoughts on that, how that sector is going to explode, and if you can shed some light on what opportunities might exist for common engineers or common citizens like who are listening to this.
Very good. Yeah, I tell you, it's a very exciting time. We are living in a very exciting time. On one hand, we just talked a little bit about air taxi and how that is going to revolutionize the transportation, kind of almost removing the congestion from the city or the roads and essentially moving it up. Same way now we're talking about space. There's a race going on. I tell you, 40 years ago, when I came here, I was basically hearing that space travel was not going to be possible. It was impractical, and it won't happen in our lifetime. Well, guess where we are. Obviously, we're wrong at that time. 40 years later, things are happening. We're seeing a lot of successes. 2 flights very recently happened. And of course, SpaceX, Elon Musk has sent a whole bunch of them, and most of them with successes. So, the leaders, let's see who the leaders are. We have essentially Virgin Galactic, led by Sir Richard Branson. We have Blue Origin, led by Jeff Bezos, and we have SpaceX, led by Elon Musk. These are the 3 big players right now, and I'm sure with time more will come. That's how it happens. At 40 years ago, we did not even know these names, but these are the leaders today. All of these 3 leaders that I mentioned, they're not only visionaries, but they also have the passion to make it a reality. And you got to have that, not just the vision, but the passion. So when you have the passion, you'll find a way to make things happen. And that's kind of what is happening. All of them have the solid passion. Everybody has a slightly different vision of this. So let's talk about one of them because of the time. Maybe I'll talk about Blue Origin a little bit, which is led by Jeff Bezos, is his company. Blue Origin was founded in 2000. And Blue Origin, if you look at this, how did that Blue Origin come into being? Blue stands for the planet Earth. Earth is considered is blue. Just like we talk about red for Mars, Earth is blue. And origin is like the flights taking off from Earth. That's the origin. So that's how the Blue Origin came into being. Anyway, that was founded in 2000. Currently, it's headquartered in Washington. And Jeff Bezos was very interested in space from his childhood. When he was 18 years years of age, he gave an interview, I think, to one of the media, I guess it was the Miami Herald, where he said he wants to build space hotels, amusement parks, and colonies in space for 2 to 3 million people who would be in orbit. This was when he was 18 years old. And he was basically talking about doing all of that because he wanted to preserve the Earth. And what does that mean? As you know, the population is increasing. Everything is increasing in size and the number. And the Earth is getting somewhat stressed. And his feeling or his vision was that we need to reduce that stress that the Earth is seeing. And let's try to put some of that stuff to some other planet out there. Right. And that's essentially what he's trying to do, which is, so you heard about the New Shepard. New Shepard went to space, and Jeff Bezos was one of the riders or astronauts. On what was the date? I believe that was July 20th.
Yeah.
July 20th. And obviously that was a success. And shortly before that, you heard that Sir Richard Branson also took his space plane, because his plan was to actually launch that one a few months later in the summer. But as soon as Jeff Bezos announced that he was going to space on the 20th of July, he preponed and he said, I'm going to fly first. It's like a race, right? So he launched on the 11th of July. And guess what? Again, that was a success. And he wanted to essentially be the first one to go into space. He took several other people from his company. And there was an 18-year-old, and then there was an 82-year-old.
Yeah.
So how fascinating
an
is
Indian
that?
person there as well, a woman of Indian origin on that.
Yeah. And that was like a 3 minutes of experiencing weightlessness in space. How fascinating is that? I wish I could do that. And
they're opening up tickets. Somebody paid 28 million and didn't go on the Jeff Bezos flight. But then I heard yesterday that they are opening up tickets for $450,000 a piece. So
well, so 450,000, it's, let's say, today, but I can almost tell you that everybody is going to be looking for reducing the cost.
Yeah.
And you have to find a way to reduce the cost. And these visionaries, new visionaries who we don't even know yet, they're going to find a way to come to reduce the cost. Like I said, 40 years ago, people were talking about 200 million a piece. Well, it's certainly not 200 million today. We're talking about cost coming down to 2,500 a person.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so 100
That's a
times,
whole
100
way
times
affordable
less.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, 100 times less. I'm sure if I'm still here, I'm going to take that one for sure.
Absolutely.
And even before that, so I think there's a whole lot of stuff going on. Elon Musk has a very different vision on this whole thing.
Great, great. Well, we could go on and talk more about this, but there are a couple of very quick things that I wanted to get out of you.
Yeah.
Tell us about the situations in your career where you felt a little bit uncomfortable and how you overcame them. Again, for the young audience, young engineers and young technical professionals in the audience, this would be very inspiring to learn from your journey, please.
Yeah, no, very good. So I think one of the things that I would say is practical experience. I lacked practical experience. I had a pretty solid fundamental theoretical experience. When I went to IIT Kharagpur, there was just not much of facilities where I could get the practical experience. Came to this country with masters, even though I got involved with some wind tunnel testing, but no real flying experience. When I went to Michigan for Ph.D., similar sort of a thing. So that was something that was a little bit difficult. How did I overcome all of that stuff? I got involved in some outside activities to build some models. I took some flying lessons. In fact, I flew on Cessna 152. I even have 14 hours of actual flying experience. I tell you, it's such a great feeling to be on the airplane, maybe with an experienced instructor or a pilot next to you, but you have the command, and I had the command, and I was flying. And then at one point, even the pilot wasn't there, and he said, "Srikant, you can fly on your own." And I did that too. Wow. And so those are the kinds of things, right? I did building models, learning how to fly, and even during the career time, then I got more and more involved into, when I said practical experiences, like actually testing models in wind tunnels, getting involved into test flights. So it wasn't just managing people, process tools. It wasn't just doing fluid mechanics calculations. It was actually putting those things into practice.
And actually building them and learning by building and then testing it out.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And one of the other things that you're going to learn, you're going to have failures. There's no question about that. So people are going to experience, I experience a lot of failures there as well, right? When you're building something and try to fly, it fails, it crashes. But then you don't stop, you keep going.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by learning from failures, learning from mistakes. And people have to understand that things don't happen just like that. You can never expect everything smooth sailing, right? If it was smooth sailing throughout your life, I would say life would be boring.
Yeah. Now, is there a message that you want to pass out to the younger audience in terms of who might want to get involved with space tech, or what they should do and what opportunities, how could they get started with that?
Yeah, the space technology is a lot of different things. It's not just aerospace or aeronautical engineering. Some people might think that way, but space tech is a lot of different things, right? Mechanical engineer could be involved in space tech, right? Chemical engineer could be involved in space tech. Of course, aerospace or aeronautical engineer could be involved in space tech. So it's not just one thing. Computer engineer, right? Information tech, they could be involved. They could be involved in space tech.
Yeah.
So space technology is a huge business that you might think. It is actually, in terms of the revenue, people think about that, right? Why should I go into that field? What is it going to be? What's in it for me? There's a lot. And the space business today, when you look at the civilian and the defense, all of those combined, it's on the order of $400 billion today. Addressable market. We're talking about all over the world, right? The world's addressable market is 400 billion. In 10 years, this is less than 10 years, this is projected to double. And so this is going to be huge. People who are in engineering today, I would say, in exciting time for them. Learn if you have any inkling towards getting involved in space tech, this is the time. And it's not too late. This is the time. And what can you do? Learn about SpaceTech. You can join a SpaceTech company if you're already an engineer, right? If you're not an engineer, maybe you can find some kind of internship in those companies. You're studying, but you have not completed your studies yet. Well, maybe you can find some internship, or maybe get some mentors.
Yeah.
Right. No, so that's another avenue. In addition to reading books and watching TVs, you can get some mentor that can point you towards what things to do. And I think, doing some internships and maybe taking a course or two would help as well. But you got to have that mindset. And I would say passion is everything.
Yeah.
If you don't have the passion, it won't work. I'm hope just about everybody has passion to do something. And I think if you have the passion in doing something, you will excel in it. Wow. People who have the passion to go into aerospace, people who have the passion to go into space tech, they can make it happen. They can find a way to make things happen, just like Jeff Bezos did, Elon Musk did, and Sir Richard Branson did.
Well, that's a great segue into the final message section for the youngsters. As you know, ASEI does a lot of mentoring programs. We do a lot of youth programs. And you've seen, Srikantji, how ASEI of 2011 is different from ASEI of 2021. And we are doing a lot of ways to engage our audience, both through multiple media, and we've been trying to do all these different kind of events. Given the lockdown, given the pandemic situation, we are limited, so we are not doing anything face-to-face, but hopefully interactions like these, virtual meetings like this, and the mentoring sessions that we've arranged for our members will encourage more and more folks to get involved. And so very quickly, if there's one message that you want to give out to the audience for why ASEI is important and why they should join, please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, let me congratulate you. You guys are doing just fantastic. I've been watching it, even though you may not be seeing much of me in the mainstream, but I've been watching just about every activity that's going on, and it's been fantastic. And so I want to congratulate you as the leader of ASEI today. Things are going very, very well. We have already 5 chapters in the country humming. You probably have, I didn't hear much about the student chapters, but I'm sure there are several student chapters. And those are good things. Why ASEI? So this was the question that has always come up. Why ASEI? But ASEI is a platform that provides many things, not just one thing. It provides many things. It's a platform that provides networking. You can meet with people. You can talk to them. You can share what you know. You can learn from them. They will share what they know. You can make friends. And some of them could be lifelong friends as well. You can get involved in community service. We talked about the sanitation condition in India. We had a full-blown symposium on that. And then people got fired up and they got involved. So we even went to some high schools, summer science camp, to teach science, technology, and math. STEM in general. And so you have everything to gain. You have nothing to lose. Well, you have some time to lose, but I don't want to call that a loss. ASEI provides you many, many opportunities, like I said. So If you are a member, I would say get involved more into ASEI, because the more time you put into it, the more you get back. The return on investment that you have is just outstanding. If you're not a member, please become a member. And I would say, please become a life member. The cost is minimal, right? I believe the cost is still $250 for the whole life.
Yeah, we haven't changed the cost in 30 years. So
30 years, the cost hasn't gone up. What's $250 for the whole life today? It's nothing, minuscule. What about the return on investment? It is as much as you put in, you get 100 times, 1,000 times as much as you put in. So if you're not a member, please become a member and get involved.
wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Agrawal. This has been a pleasure meeting you. And from the bottom of my heart, with all the achievements that you've had in the technical field, with the 50 plus papers that academic papers that you've written, the patents that you've gotten in the aerospace field, as well as the wonderful positions that you've held from technology to management. Namaste from my soul to yours. And thank you very much for your service to ASEI in the past, and hope to keep you engaged. And audience, please follow us on YouTube, Twitter, as well as on LinkedIn. And we are going to be launching on our Clubhouse channel as well. So with that, thank you very much, and see you on our next programs.
Thank you very much, Piyush, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.